time. Over time, what do we earn? Money, respect, a family, safety. Over time, our hands, our feet and knees, our organs and our minds become less nimble. We can find ourselves in need of nurturing, in need of protection. And yet, as we move forward into the 21st century, it seems as though our nation's elderly and adults with disabilities are under assault. In this new century, nearly 12,000 vulnerable adults a year in Virginia are reported to be abused, neglected, or exploited. By making the decision to become involved in the safety and protection of vulnerable adults, you have taken on one of the most important commitments any community can make, protecting them from abuse, neglect, and exploitation.
These are some big bruises, aren't they?
One of the challenges you face is recognizing when a vulnerable adult in your care is at risk. The signs are not always obvious, and in the case of the elderly and adults with disabilities, many are unable to communicate their concerns because they're either afraid or unable to recognize their predicament.
I'm quite disturbed and I'm confused, honey.
Learning how to recognize signs of abuse, neglect, and exploitation is an important component of the responsibility you have taken on in working with vulnerable adults. In fulfilling that duty, you will make a contribution to the statewide effort to honor those who have given us so much over the course of their lives. The Commonwealth of Virginia has placed an important responsibility on all professionals who have the job of taking care of the elderly and disabled adults. These professionals are required by law to report suspicions of abuse, neglect, and exploitation to your local Department of Social Services. Unless you carry out your obligations, your local Department of Social Services will lose an opportunity to offer help to those at risk.
While many people in the field are aware of the very real problem of adult abuse, neglect, and sometimes even self-neglect and exploitation, too many Virginians are not. And it's critical that those people who interact with our parents and grandparents, when they see this kind of abuse taking place, that we make sure they report this information. If we don't know, if folks in social services, if folks who are the caregivers are not aware, and sometimes it is the caregivers, unfortunately, who are creating the abuse. If we don't have these mandated reporters getting this information back, then we can't correct the problem.
The importance of your duty as a mandated reporter cannot be overstated. The amount of abuse, neglect, and exploitation in Virginia is staggering and continues to rise. Of the nearly 12,000 reports investigated every year by Adult Protective Services, at least 60% have been substantiated. As shocking as these numbers are, the story is deeper than that. In the only national incident study conducted to date, only 1 in 14 cases of abuse, neglect, and exploitation are ever reported. Many are either unable or afraid to reach out for help. Clearly, more must be done.
We focus a lot on the younger populations and everything, but we sort of have forgotten about the senior population. And we hear about those cases that are all over the paper, but there are a lot of adults who are quiet about these acts because of the fact that they could be family members, they could be their caregiver, they could be afraid. So it's so important that we provide the training to people so they know that they need to report this, that we can make sure that we have the right people in place providing the care, because it's so important that the people providing the care have the clearance and the ability to take care of these adults. And if something happens, that immediately they report it. They call our hotline, they call the police, they make sure that that person is taken care of.
Most reports are of neglect, both self-neglect and neglect by a person responsible for their care. 8% of all cases are of elderly or adult disabled Virginians being physically or sexually abused. And many are also victims of some sort of exploitation, such as financial rip-offs. Oftentimes, at-risk adults will suffer a combination of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. Abuse, neglect, and exploitation occur everywhere, but most often at home. A significant portion of these wrongs also occur in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. Nearly 3/4 of the reported victims of abuse, neglect, and exploitation are 60 and older. But a substantial number of reported victims are adults who are mentally and/or physically impaired and have little ability to take care for or defend themselves.
And they deserve a good quality of life, and they should be able to have that. They should be able to feel comfortable in environments, to know that the people that are caring for them are loving and caring, and that they're not trying to hurt them and abuse them. And we have to be sometimes maybe a little bit more sensitive to that, and we need to report these cases and make sure that if we suspect, all you have to do is call the 800 number and then let us do the investigation. Let us find out. Maybe we may find out that it's not founded, but at least make that call. So that way we can make sure that we investigate and provide everybody a good quality of life.
It's important to have a clear understanding of the different types of abuse, neglect, and exploitation vulnerable adults in Virginia endure every day. Neglect occurs when someone lacks the resources to provide for their well-being, or who have impairments rendering them unable to effectively use the resources they have. That occurs when at-risk adults cannot take care of themselves, therefore suffer from what's known as self-neglect, or are not cared for by someone who is responsible for their care. At-risk adults who are being neglected lack sufficient resources to stay physically or mentally healthy. At-risk adults who are self-neglected lack sufficient resources to stay physically or mentally healthy, or have impairments that result in the ineffective use of the resources they do have.
When they're neglected, they withdraw within to themselves. They don't have the ability to trust anymore. So it's so important that we look after to make sure that they're not neglected, that they get their medicines, they get their food. When you're 83 years old and you've got no one around you, and you can't get your food, or you get someone who comes in and just throws a plate at you, you may not get the nourishment and things you need, and therefore your quality of life suffers.
Just bring it in.
A senior who is neglected will display signs that often can be compared to poverty.
Come on.
Neglect is not always a result of poverty, although the signs can be quite similar. These individuals may appear to lack the necessary elements that ensure good health and safety. However, these signs may also result from their incapacity to use existing resources.
One of the first things that you would see if you were, say, a neighbor would be someone who appeared to be wandering, doing inappropriate things outside of the home, maybe looking at other people's mailboxes, something like that. Is something that's truly not their nature. But you also might look at, are they unkempt? Do they appear to be losing weight? Many people are neglected by caregivers, but there are also those who are self-neglecting.
Physical and sexual abuse can be observed more clearly. Physical abuse is an act of violence or rough treatment that causes injury or discomfort. Slapping, pushing, and hitting are all forms of physical abuse. This may even include over or under-medicating at-risk adults, as well as the use of physical restraints. Sexual abuse can occur in any setting and range from inappropriate touching to rape. Victims of sexual abuse include both younger vulnerable adults and the elderly. Disabled and incapacitated adults may be unable to relate the specifics of the abuse.
You can go head down into my office, Gordon.
Physical abuse often occurs during the actual provision of care to the vulnerable adult. The signs of these types of abuses can be determined by several factors. Emotional clues are sometimes as effective as physical ones. A senior who shows fear of caregivers and a reluctance to get treatment for an injury, or frequently changes doctors, could very well be trying to keep the abuser from being exposed for fear of retribution. It's even more likely that the failure to get treatment is a decision made by the caregiver who is abusive. Victims will also appear with recent injuries they won't or can't explain. They may exhibit an unusual pattern of bruises and scalp injuries, or appear over-medicated.
But there are a lot of adults who are quiet about these acts because of the fact that they could be family members, they could be their caregiver, they could be afraid.
Hi, Miss Marie. Hi, dear. How are you?
Fine. Ooh,
Vulnerable adults may be exposed to those who would take advantage of them and rob them of their hard-earned savings and property by accessing their bank accounts, personal property, and other resources.
Is it raining out?
oh, not doing too bad. Not doing too bad.
Oh, good. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Many at-risk adults are victim to exploitation, which includes the theft of one's money or property without full knowledge and consent.
Alrighty, I think we're ready for your card. Thank you.
There are those who steal money, pension checks, and even personal belongings and/or property.
And English. And what was your pen again?
1618.
And how much?
$20.
All right.
Some take advantage of power of attorney to make the vulnerable adult change their will, give over their homes, their cars, and other tangible personal property. A senior who is being exploited may exhibit irresponsible or unusual behavior with their finances. This behavior could develop over time or be a sudden change.
A lot of the senior citizens, they have worked all their lives for what they have. And now to be in the eve of their lives when they're supposed to be in the joy life, they're finding that they don't have the resources to do that. And today in the economy, they need the money, and it's difficult if you have someone taking it from you. And there are all different kinds of ways that people do that. They, may not be so blatant that they go in and use the ATM card, or they actually go in and take it right from the account. They may threaten, if you don't give me this money, if you don't give me your check, I'm not going to do this for you. And some adults live in fear, and so therefore they act out of fear.
Tragically, these three offenses are only part of the wide spectrum of abuse adults with disabilities and the elderly may suffer. Your ability to recognize the signs of abuse, neglect, and exploitation in an elder or adult disabled person can oftentimes be the difference between a secure and dignified life and a devastating one. Determining whether someone is suffering from neglect and how that neglect is occurring requires an understanding of warning signs and getting information from that vulnerable adult.
Hello, are you Mrs. Speck?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Officer Woodson in Henrico County Police. Do you mind if I come in and speak with you a few minutes?
No, that's all right.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Hey, you must be Mr. Speck.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir? I'm Officer Woodson in Henrico Police. You mind if I sit down a few minutes?
Oh, go ahead, sit down.
Well, I guess you folks are wondering why I'm here today. The reason I'm here, you have a sister, or one of you all has a sister that lives up in Pennsylvania, Miss Klein?
That's my sister.
Oh, that's your sister. Okay, well, your sister had called. She was concerned about you all, hadn't been able to get a hold of you. Have you all spoke with her recently?
Our telephone's broken.
Oh, telephone's broken, I
Christmas,
see.
guess.
It's important to create a sense of security between you and the person you suspect may be a victim of neglect. That means exhibiting calm behavior and no sense of being judgmental, no matter how you feel about the situation.
Your phone's broke.
When a victim of abuse feels secure in your company, there's a better chance that person will provide reliable and important information.
Christmas was the last time you spoke to her. Yeah, she was concerned about you. Just wanted me to stop by and make sure you folks are doing okay. And I want to ask you, how are you doing here?
Pretty good.
Doing pretty good? I can tell you, I'm freezing cold in here. You don't have the heat on today?
Oh, you're cold?
Yes, ma'am.
Something's wrong with the heat.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
We got the power on, but he.
Yeah, I don't see how you can stand it. It's mighty chilly in here for me, and I've got this big coat on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How long have you folks been living here?
30 years.
Yeah.
30 years, about.
And how long do you think the heat's been off?
Oh,
I don't know.
Christmas?
Oh, Maybe after Christmas.
Is that right?
A little bit.
Is that right? Well, you guys have any family or friends that lives in the area? Come by and
No.
check on you or anything?
No.
You don't?
No.
Just you two here live alone?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you all drive? Can you have a way to go to the store and get the things you need?
just walk.
Just walk, yeah. Well, the store's a good little bit away. I wouldn't think you'd walk in this kind of weather, would you?
No.
When's the last time y'all had something to eat?
We had peanuts
Peanuts, when'd you have those? This morning?
today.
Yeah. What are you going to have for dinner? You got anything planned for dinner?
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah, yeah.
We'll find something.
What about any medicines y'all might need? Either one of y'all take medicine you have to have every day?
Yeah. We both do.
Oh, is that right?
He takes for his Parkinson's.
Oh, is that right? Well, how do y'all get back and forth to get those prescriptions filled?
It's tough.
Since the bus is not coming by, we don't.
Yeah.
It's still
much.
closed up the street.
Is that right? Yeah, that's not good. Mr. Speck, I see you kind of squinting at me. Do you normally wear glasses?
Somewhere
You got a pair around here somewhere? Well, let's take a look around and see if maybe we can find them.
Oh, he's always losing his glasses.
Oh, here they are right here. Always losing them, huh?
Right.
How old are you folks?
Oh,
Well,
77.
I'm 72.
You're 72?
76? 76?
Yeah.
You're 76, Mr. Speck? Well, look like
Been
you're-
around there a long time.
Is that right? Well, look like you're doing fairly well for yourself. Hopefully you'll be around a lot longer. To tell you, do you mind if I look around a few minutes? See what kind of things you have in your kitchen?
Oh, guess it's all right.
Okay.
Nice.
Your observations can help you determine whether this person may be a victim of neglect or self-neglect. This should provide you with enough information to report your suspicions.
Well, again, I appreciate y'all speaking with me. I tell you, I went in and looked inside your cupboards and in your refrigerator, and they look a little bare. I'm concerned about that.
Well, we haven't been to the store, like
yeah.
we said.
I saw a Meals on Wheels box. Does Meals on Wheels come by?
Used to.
Is that right?
Good, good.
Yeah, they do a good job. They don't come by
Come
anymore?
by anymore.
Yeah.
Good volunteers.
Yeah, they do a good job. Well, I'll tell you, I am a little concerned about you. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make a phone call over to some county services we have and maybe get some folks to come out and speak with you all. Would that be okay?
Well, our phone doesn't work.
Well, I've got one in the car I can make the call from. And we'll see if we can maybe get your phone back working. How about that?
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, good. We call sister.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Call the
call
sister.
my sister.
Well, I'm going to go out to my car and make a phone call, and I'll be back in a few minutes, okay?
Very nice, very nice.
It's important to keep in mind the older and more infirm, the greater the risk of accidental falls. So seniors and disabled adults can frequently be found with bruises and scars. The key is differentiating the wounds that are the result of accidents and those that are the result of a deliberate attempt to harm an elderly or disabled person. If you have an elderly or disabled person in your care who reports pain or has injuries, there are ways to determine if the injury or pain is as a result of accidental injury or physical abuse.
The location of the injury is very important. Injuries that are on bony prominences, like your elbow, your hands, knees, are normal, just in everyday life. We bump and bruise. But injuries that are on the top of your head, the inside of your thighs, on the inside of your arms, are areas that you do not normally have injuries. And those are things that should stand out to caregivers, mandated reporters, that this is not normal. The other thing are areas of possible restraint marks, and that would be your wrist, upper arms, your ankles, your thighs, and then around the abdomen and chest. This is an elderly female, and this is her ear and hairline, multiple bruises about her body. But this one is important because it's injuries to places that there shouldn't be. You shouldn't have bruising behind the ear and the hairline. This was a result of ear and hair pulling. This is an elderly female that came in from an adult facility nursing home who had multiple injuries. She has a very large hematoma on her head, which is a collection of blood under the skin, which has clotted. She also has bruises to the other part of her head and to her eyes, bilateral with both eyes that have bruising. The biggest part that stands out is the location. People do not fall on the top of their heads. Okay, now children can if they're crawling out, but adults usually do not fall on the top of their head. And you usually, when you fall, you don't have injuries on both sides of your face and both eyes. This is a elderly female who had, it was described as a fall, but she had injuries over her whole body. So we had concerns over that this was not a one-time fall. In this one picture, she has a contusion to her shoulder, and it's circumferential. It means that it goes all the way around, and that was an alarm to us. If she had had a fall, she would have had an injury possibly to the front or side or back, but since it was circumferential, we were very concerned with the other injuries that she had to her body. This is an indication of neglect. This is a sign of dehydration. She has dry food and her mucous membranes are very dry. Very concerning to medical personnel, because we have to hydrate her and make sure that she survives this, because you can die from dehydration. This is injuries from a possible sexual assault. Elderly females should not have vaginal bleeding. Now, the things you have to rule out is there some form of cancer? Is there some type of hormonal problem? But flank red bleeding from an elderly female is abnormal, and it should be investigated to rule out a sexual assault.
You got your water, Gordon?
Yes.
The conversation you have with an at-risk adult must be non-judgmental and cannot in any way lead him to a conclusion.
You comfortable in here with me? Mm-hmm. Can we get a high five?
Yeah.
All right. You know why I called you in here?
No.
I wanted to talk with you. You know, we've known each other for a while now, right? Mm. And I noticed today when you were in the activity room, you weren't talking to your friends or talking to the staff in the room. Do you know why you weren't talking to anybody today?
I just wanted just some time by myself.
Time by yourself? We all need time by ourselves sometimes, huh?
Yeah, that's all.
Can I ask you about something else?
Yeah.
And you know I'm only asking these questions because I care about you, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure that you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I touch your hand here?
Mm-hmm.
You see that bruise?
Yeah.
Can you tell me how you got that? Do you remember?
I think we were horsing around and
Can you tell me who you were horsing around with?
what's his name? Red shirt.
Someone in a red shirt?
Big.
A victim may be fearful or apprehensive, so it's important not to press for details that they are unable or unwilling to give. Avoid asking why questions. Building trust and showing support is the first step in creating an honest dialogue with someone who is fearful, perhaps for their life.
He said, we're just horsing around.
Right. Gordon, can you tell me if you have any other bruises?
Yeah.
Where? Behind your ears?
My ear?
Yeah, I see this one. Wow. Yeah, that's not from horsing around. When you and I horse around, Gordon, when you and I horse around, we have fun, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not having fun, it's not horsing around. Was the horsing around you guys did fun?
No.
No. I'm gonna go ahead and call some people, maybe a nurse or a doctor, and they can take a look and make you feel a little better. Mm-hmm. And there's other people I can call, and we can make sure that this doesn't happen anymore, all right?
What if it happens again?
I'm not gonna let it happen again, okay? You need to try to calm down and understand that we're not gonna let that happen anymore. And I'm very glad you told me. That's how we'll try to help it not to happen anymore.
Okay.
All right? You wanna sit here and drink your water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Miss Goodman.
morning.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, darling. Come right on
All
in.
right.
Someone older or with mental health issues who is being financially exploited could very well be confused about the whole affair and not suspect a thing. She may very well believe that she has depleted money from her account on her own.
The lady called me from the bank and said that I didn't have enough money in there to cover 2 checks I'd written. There was no money in the bank. And my check is directed right to the bank.
Okay,
you see,
direct deposit.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And I'm a little concerned because I want to know what happened to my money.
All right.
And my jewelry, same thing. My ring, my wedding band with all the diamonds that goes with this was missing.
All right. Do you have, do you use an ATM card or do you normally write checks?
Well, both. I do both, but I don't do it. My friend sends her daughter over here to help me twice a week with my groceries and my cleaning, and that's all I spend, you see.
All right. And was she with you the last time that you used your check or your ATM card?
She used it. I let her do everything. I
Okay.
just pick my food, you see.
Uh-huh.
And she takes care of the money end of it.
Okay. Let's go back to the ATM card. With the ATM card, does she have access to your PIN? Does she know your PIN number?
Yes, she does. I gave her access to everything, you know.
Okay.
So good to have such, what I thought was, you know, just good help.
Okay. Is this the first time she went with you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no. She's been going with me quite a while now, but this is the first time. The bank has called me to tell me that I don't have the money in the bank.
Miss Goodman, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go out down to my office and I'm going to make a phone call. See if we can get this resolved. And if it's okay with you, when I come back, I would like to go back and check where you normally keep your rings to see if just perhaps it's underneath another piece of jewelry or if anything else is out of place. Is that okay?
That is just fine with me, honey.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll be back shortly, okay? And try not to worry too much. I promise you I'll do my best.
Thank you so much,
You're very
darling.
welcome.
I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I'll be back shortly, okay? And you try not to worry too much.
All right.
Notice how the caregiver never told the woman that she thought something happened. She showed concern for the woman's financial plight, told her she wanted to help discover what happened and how it might be fixed. Once you have determined there is reason to suspect a senior or disabled adult is being abused, neglected, or exploited, it's time to report your suspicions to the local Department of Social Services. Keep in mind, this is not a choice. Once you suspect abuse or neglect, you are required by law to report your suspicions.
Good morning, Adult Protective Services.
Yes, good morning. My name is Mel, and I'm calling from Virginia Assisted Living Facilities. And I need to speak with someone in reference to a resident of mine, some mishandling of funds.
Okay, I'll be happy to take this information. Could you provide me with her name and her address and her age?
Okay, her name is Mrs. Ann Goodman, and the address is 3800 Ridgefield Parkway. She's 82.
Would you describe to me what her concerns are about her money?
All right. She left a message she needed to see me this morning, and I went into her apartment. And she'd received a call from her bank, and apparently she had a few checks that were returned for insufficient funds. Also, she noticed that she was missing a piece of jewelry.
Also keep in mind, you do not have to prove your suspicions, but Adult Protective Services cannot act on your suspicions unless you call. Failure to make that call can result in a Class 3 misdemeanor.
It's always the same young lady that's taking her, and she's the only person that has access to the checkbook and also the debit card again.
Under Virginia law, when you make a good faith effort at recognizing and reporting suspected abuse, neglect, and exploitation, you are immune from liability and your name will be kept confidential.
All right, I've got the information, and this is a valid report. A worker will be assigned. Please let the facility know that someone will be coming out to meet with Mrs. Goodman. And thank you again for making this report. We certainly hope we can help her with this situation.
All right, thank you very much for your help. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
By learning how to recognize the signs of abuse, neglect, or exploitation in adults at risk, you are taking steps to protect these people from further harm. By following the law and reporting your suspicions, you are also performing a great act of community service.
I gotta tell you, as a son who's got my own mom and dad in a circumstance now where my mother has got a bad case of Alzheimer's and my dad is there 24/7 to take care of her, but sometimes he has to get away, so we've got people to come in and help take care of her. I mean, we need to make sure that, God forbid, there's any evidence of abuse or neglect, that information is reported. I tell you, this kind of legislation will make me rest easier as a son, I think a lot of other family members will rest easier. And the role that these mandated reporters play is so critical to giving that level of assurance that ends up improving the quality of life for all of us.